Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Notre Dame fans. Mike Singer live on the Blue and Gold YouTube channel. It is a day of the week that ends with day, so we're live. Of course, we have some kind of YouTube content going up. Folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the Blue and Gold YouTube channel for more content. If you listen to this as a podcast, I really appreciate you as well. I'd ask that you would leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Tailgate season is here, Notre Dame fans, and no one's going to get you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors, from grills to jerseys and more. So swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. You got 8 stores across Indiana and a new one coming soon to Mishawaka. So gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Eric, how are you? I appreciate you joining the end of the post-game show last night. I think it was a little bit of a disaster, and then I think
joined
it
the
ended on a
beginning
high
and
note.
the end.
You did join at the beginning. For those who maybe watched the replay, I was on the phone with Eric. But you see what I just did there? Apparently kids do this now. If you say to a kid, how do you like signal you're on the phone? This is what they do. I'm like, gosh, I think ain't that crazy. Anyways, Eric, how are you today, my friend? Everything going well?
I'm doing great. These afternoon games are much easier on your mind and your body, but it was really fun to see Notre Dame score 56 points yesterday, and it's really neat to see kind of the beginning of who CJ Carr is becoming. I remember going through that with Brady Quinn and Jimmy Clausen, and this is really fun.
Yeah. So, folks, we're going to do like a roundtable discussion. I got Eric with me, and we're going to bring in other Blue and Gold beat writers as the show goes on. But I wanted to start with the AP top 25 poll that came out a couple of hours ago. Notre Dame at number 22. They do, excuse me, have a ranked opponent ahead, USC at number 21. I know it's going to pain Notre Dame fans to hear this, but you do want USC to keep winning. And then A&M's at number 9. Miami's at number 2 now after their big win over Florida. So thoughts on this top 25, Eric? Like, listen, we all know that the college football playoff top 25 is the one that really matters, but this usually is pretty accurate to what it ends up being, right? Like the AP poll and the playoff poll are usually pretty close. So thoughts on this top 25, and then specifically with Notre Dame and where you had the Irish in your own AP poll.
Yeah, every week you get a little bit more information, so you feel better about where you have teams ranked. I don't have Miami at number 2, but I can definitely see why people would vote them there. After the win against Florida yesterday, their whole body of work, when you look at their whole season today, what they did with South Florida, because South Florida's beaten everybody else pretty decently, except they weren't super competitive with Miami. So,
but Illinois is at number 23.
I did not vote for them this week. I think
you
lose to anybody 63-10. It's really hard unless you have a great body of work beyond that, and it's a real outlier game. And they don't have that. They don't have a win or wins that would, make that go away. Michigan is real interesting where they're ranked, because their quarterback has struggled so much with his passing. And that's a flashing yellow light when you think about a teams whose winning ways are not going to be sustainable. Penn State is kind of in the same boat. Aller is sitting at 74th in pass efficiency right now against 3 cupcakes. And he was 13th last year. So unless that number goes way up and they play Oregon this weekend, they're going to end up dropping. I have Notre Dame a little bit higher, and I think I'm basing that on, I do think Notre Dame's offense is to the point where they can win shootouts. They need their defense to evolve, but I do think this Arkansas game is going to be high scoring, and they will be able to prevail in that.
Would you have the Irish at, Eric?
I had them at 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is so. I mean, are you feeling more optimistic about Notre Dame?
I am. And here's what I wrote in my behind the ballot column, which I'm going to post here shortly. what do style points look like in September? What does Notre Dame need to do to impress both the AP voters and eventually the college football player voters? I think one is they need to just keep winning. Two, they need to distance themselves from the team that they were in the first 2 weeks so that people think of them in November and say, you know what, they're a lot better than they are or they were in August and September. They're eventually going to have to solve the defensive problem. And when you looked at the team last year, Mike, it was the script was flipped.
100%.
The defense carried that team for a long time, and the offense eventually became part of the solution. But the thing was, you could really clearly see that plan playing out in real time. With this defense, other than the second half of the Purdue game, I'm not sure that there's clear evidence other than the fact that Marcus feels like this is his problem now. This is his solution. And he, after the game last night, was very adamant about what this needs to look like against Arkansas, who's a better offensive team than Purdue. One of the best offensive teams Notre Dame will play. The good news is they're not a good defensive team, but they are very good offensively. They'll challenge this defense. There needs to be some progress. I think that's the interesting part to me. I don't see it yet, and I don't know that I believe that Chris Ash is going to get this fixed. I do kind of believe Marcus Freeman's going to get it fixed.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I said that I felt that Notre Dame would blow out Purdue, and I even put that in like the tweet from Blue and Gold. I was like, after a shaky first half and a 2-hour weather delay, Notre Dame blows out Purdue. It's 26 points. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it's not a blowout. What do you mean? They scored 30." I was like, man, it's 26-point win with a blowout or a late touchdown. I was like, I mean, when you play your backups for an entire quarter, I mean, what the heck are we talking about? It was a blowout. Anyways, I think they're going to go and beat Arkansas by 10 points. But here's the thing about the Arkansas game before we bring in Jack Sobel, Eric. I think we are going to get really our answers about this defense. Is it going to be you need to win in shootouts the rest of the season against good teams? Or does or is this defense going to take a step? Are they going to figure things out before the Arkansas game? Because that quarterback, the Green Cat for the Razorbacks, he is outstanding. I got to watch a little bit of their game against Memphis. But I just think that we're going to learn what we need to know. And I think how Notre Dame performed against Arkansas is going to tell us, all right, is this a legit playoff team? Or maybe they go in there and lose and we know it. All right, it's Pop-Tart Bowl bound. Do you agree with me? What's your line of thinking on this, Eric?
I think we're going to learn a lot. If the defense takes a step forward against that Arkansas offense, that's a great sign because there's 3 teams that are coming up in October, November that are actually better in pass efficiency than Arkansas, and that's USC, Boston College, and believe it or not, Navy. Now, Navy doesn't throw the ball very much, but BC and USC do. USC is 11th in passing offense. BC is number 1. But here's the flip side of it, and this is why I think Notre Dame is going to win shootouts. When you look at the whole rest of the season, how many teams in pass efficiency defense does Notre Dame face in the top 50? How many do you think, Mike?
You're about to tell me.
0. 0 for 9. The highest, the best, is Arkansas at 51st, but they're 87th in run defense, so they're not really good at either facet, and that's where CJ Carr's got to be licking his chops. And he moved, Mike, from 66th in pass efficiency to 18th in 1 week.
What is pass efficiency? Specifically, what is that stat?
What it is predictive of is it puts some context behind your numbers. I mean, you can throw for a lot of passing yards, but if you are not, throw a lot of interceptions, or you don't throw very many touchdowns, or your yard per attempt is weak or strong, this kind of standardizes how good you are as a passing quarterback. It doesn't include your running numbers in there, but as a passing quarterback. So if you threw 4 times a game or you threw 80 times a game, it'll tell you how you would rank those quarterbacks if they all threw 32 times.
Interesting.
A game, for example. So it's a formula that grades both your your quarterback, and it also grades your pass defense, because again, sometimes you play in a league where everybody's throwing the ball around, and sometimes you play teams that don't pass very much. But in 1990, that's how the NCAA started measuring pass defense, not by passing yards per game, but how good you were actually on defense.
Interesting. All right, let's go ahead and bring in Jack Sobel, and I'm going to kind of ask Jack that same question, like line of thinking, headed into Arkansas. You with me? What do you think, Jack?
I like that you guys mentioned last year's start, when it was kind of like you said, the reverse of this, when the defense was playing lights out and the offense was a work in progress. The biggest difference between then and now, in my opinion, is the way Marcus Freeman's talking about it. Because last year you heard Marcus talk about the offense like there was no panic. He knew there was a plan. He defended Riley Leonard. He stuck with his guns. And like even not after NIU because everyone was shell shocked after that, but like from Purdue on, Freeman was pretty adamant that they would get it figured out. You don't get that sense right now with the way Freeman talks about the defense. Like there is legitimate, I don't know about panic, but certainly frustration, certainly some like we really should have figured this out by now. He's really not happy. Yeah, Freeman's pissed. He came as close as he will ever come to directly criticizing Chris Ash at the press conference yesterday. I'm not sure I realized how blatant this was at the time, but when he's talking about like we're calling cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, and nothing's working, and you just need to trust the game plan and call something that these guys can run. That is, he pretty much just said Chris Ash failed as a defensive coordinator on the 2-minute drive for Purdue at the end of the first half, or the 1-minute drive. Really, it was 53 seconds, 75 yards is ridiculous. So
with no timeouts.
Yeah, with no timeout, they just marched down the field in 6 plays. It was inexcusable, more than really anything that's happened this season so far on defense, in my opinion. And I know they didn't have Leonard Moore. I get that. But the problems were there with Leonard Moore on the field. They just didn't throw it to his side. So it's hard for me to see an easy fix, because there is no easy fix. And it's hard for me to see them fixing it quickly enough to play good defense against Arkansas at the point where they can win that game without scoring basically every drive.
What's your response to that, Eric?
I agree with Jack, but I think the offense is good enough to score
that's
on every
point,
drive. Yeah. They have to, if they play clean games against USC, if they play clean game against Arkansas where they don't have a turnover deficit, I think they're good enough to beat those teams. Now, eventually, if you get in the playoff, you need a defense. But I think right now, I think that's the real encouraging thing about this team is how the offense is incrementally, not just incrementally, I mean, they're taking leaps, and especially because of CJ Carr. But Arkansas is going to be a handful. Their offense is going to be a handful.
100%. And with the offense, like we talk about the defense not having an identity, the offense really, probably more so than against Texas A&M, they really established their identity. They're a run and gun team. They're going to take shots down the field. They're going to pound the ball. Like Denbrock did a great job of like, Purdue can't stop the run. We're not even going to think about passing. They just ran and ran and ran. When Love got tired, it was Price. I think Price is such a noticeably better player than he was. Not so he was good at the end of last year, but especially at this time last year, he is noticeably and considerably better. I think I want to call back to, and I can say this since we have the partnership with The Athletic now, Pete Sampson last year, he embedded himself in Miami, Ohio before that game. You guys remember that story he wrote?
Yeah.
And the Miami's comments about Price and Love were like, Price is dangerous, but he doesn't like to run inside. He's just gonna try to bounce everything. Whereas Love is an abject terror is the phrase he used. This year, like Price is just so much more decisive and physical between the tackles when he hits a hole. It's so hard to defend because, like I said after the show yesterday, and I know I'm rambling a little bit here, he's good in different ways than Love is, and it's just so hard to defend both of them when they're on like they were last night. And Fields, Faison, Carr have done a great job playing off that and being the complement, and the receivers know that, so they block their tails off when Notre Dame runs the ball. it's a really nice thing to watch an offense that knows what it is, and Notre Dame really knows what it is right now.
Like human nature, we just tend to look at what needs to improve because we just think the things that are going well, they should go well. So we just like talk about the bad things. But like, I think for like, if you weigh how bad the defense is with how good the offense is, I'm with Eric, dude. That offense, I think that they should win every game left on their schedule with how good that is. Like, I like the running gun shout for that, Jack. They really could do whatever the hell they want. They want to just drop back, chuck the ball around. I think the O line has improved so much since that. I think the maybe not improved. I don't know if like those players have gotten better in 3 weeks, but like it's an improved unit if that they're playing better, and it helps that they're not playing against Ruben Bain, who was like I think he had 9 quarterback pressures against Florida. He's an absolute freak. Let's bring in my fellow recruiting writer Kyle Kelly, who's Cleveland Browns just won a game against a team that you would think was right up there with the best, like with the Packers, the best team in the league coming into this week, and must be nice. My team is 0-3. Get the hell out of here, Dolphins helmet. Kyle,
because I don't want to watch my team.
Kyle, what are your thoughts about some of these discussions we've been having? What's been jogging your memory or jogging your brain?
Yeah, so just some background on yesterday. During the delay, see you, Mike. But anyway, during the delay yesterday, I went back to my workstation and I had the game on my iPad on Peacock, and I saw that Zora Stevenson from NBC did an interview with Marcus Freeman. And I'm listening it, and a pretty generic first question, and I'm transcribing the interview because I wanted to get a quote over to Tyler James for one of his, an update story on the weather delay. As I'm listening to this interview, I'm kind of taken aback, and I'm like, whoa. I haven't heard this type of Marcus Freeman, at least not lately. I felt that his comments about the defense and his concerns were very candid, and you could feel the frustration just coming through that screen and into my headphones. And this interview that I took, was just supposed to, help Tyler James with his story. It ended up turning into, something that I felt was pretty glaring and concerning for Notre Dame, because it's apparent that there's some real concerns on the defense right now. And Marcus Freeman really elaborated on those in the press conference after the game on Saturday night, which I know Jack Sobel talked about a little bit before the show. But I think, Marcus Freeman's tone when he talks about the defense just gives us insight into what's really going on behind the scenes at Notre Dame with some of the struggles. That's my first takeaway. My second takeaway, which you guys have already hit on as well, is that I think it's pretty apparent that Notre Dame has found a damn good quarterback. I think they have a guy in CJ Carr that can win them games. And I don't know if we would say this at the start of the year, but I think Notre Dame has a guy that can, win these types of shootout games. I don't think they would have expected going into the season that Notre Dame would have to get into these types of high-scoring 80-point games that's been the last 2 weeks. But they clearly have a guy under center who is gaining confidence each and every week. And I think that CJ Carr's development is a really big deal, and it can maybe overshadow some of the defensive struggles, because I don't think that they're going to be out in most of these games because of the output that they're getting on offense, and especially at the quarterback position right now.
All right, I'm going to go to Eric in just a moment with a comment from Justin ND Sniper in the chat. But before we do that, let's talk about Home Field, the exclusive apparel sponsor of this show. No one is doing the Home Field gear like they are. It truly is incredible stuff. I mean, if you don't know about home field, you're about to. The premium collegiate apparel brand based out of Indianapolis, and they've built their name by making the most comfortable, officially licensed, vintage-inspired college gear out there. We're talking hoodies, crew necks, tees, bomber jackets, hats, always adding new stuff. I've been rocking the Notre Dame collection for quite a while. Love having Home Field as our sponsor for the past couple of years. It's in my rotation. My wife loves their gear as well. So something great to buy for yourself, buy for a loved one. I mean, they have countless schools here. I guess you could count them. It's just going to take you a while because they have a lot of stuff. IU Indy to Idaho State, James Madison to Lamar. I mean, seriously, there is so much here. So go to homefieldapparel.com, buy some stuff. I really want to get this Notre Dame pinstripe snapback that looks like an Indiana Pacers hat. I love Home Field. So check it out, homefieldapparel.com. Check out your favorite design and get ready to rep your Notre Dame gear in style. All right, Eric, I want to stay on what Kyle was kind of talking about with that press conference. Justin N.D. Sniper said that interview almost felt like a therapy session for Freeman to release his frustrations. That was exactly my thought. I talked about in the post-game show. And then it seemed like the press conference was a little bit of a continuation of that. It was kind of like, I just got to get this stuff off my chest. I just have to say it out loud. Is that the vibe that you got, Eric?
It is. And Marcus Freeman, I mean, his hallmark is being authentic. Now, he can spin a word salad when he doesn't want to give an answer.
Which is most Monday pressers, right?
Most Monday pressers. But, I mean, it's not like he's making up answers. He's just spinning it to where you're like, what did I just eat? But he was, I mean, you could feel the emotion. You could feel it coming from his heart last night. And I think it was a good, positive thing for the Notre Dame program because I think Marcus had to get that publicly pissed off to really inject himself to the point that he needs to be with this defense. And I'm not saying get rid of Chris Ash or that Chris Ash won't be contributing, but I think Marcus's fingerprints need to be on this solution. And I think he's a guy that can. He's a guy that's done it for himself. And he's a guy that I think needs to be really involved now because, again, the biggest problems with the rest of the schedule have to do with the challenge even a really good defense would face, let alone one that's 103rd in pass efficiency defense, which we just defined.
Jack?
Well, first of all, I saw a comment that's, did we hear Jack report Freeman, Ashton, Mick, and slamming iPads? I did not. I saw that rumor. I did not report that. That's not something I saw. I'm not saying it's not true, but I did not report that, so I don't know what you're getting that from. I do know Ash spends a lot of time on that iPad on the sidelines, which after things aren't going well, I would like to see him talking to the players, trying to get on guys. But I did not report the slamming iPads thing. That wasn't me.
I will report that one of my grandkids did that last week.
Nice.
Not over the Notre Dame defense, though.
But no, I mean, I agree with everything Eric said. Like, Freeman needs to get more involved because he pretty much called out his defensive coordinator after the game, and it's a large enough sample size to the point where Freeman has to do something because it isn't going to get magically fixed. That's pretty much what Freeman said during the interview. He's like, I think the question was like, what are the players seeing on the iPads? And he basically said, they're seeing what you're all seeing, but they got to get it fixed. And they can't just keep saying, this is what we're doing wrong. They have to start doing something right.
Yeah. One thing specifically for the people in the chat and the people watching is what Marcus seemed to be really frustrated about was the marriage between what was going on in the back end and the lack of pass rush, or the way that they were pass rushing. If they're bringing 5, then you can't expect the guys in the defensive backfield to hold on forever. You've got to be able to get home, or you've got to be able to force something bad. And I think that's where his biggest frustration was.
The amount of times this team blitzes and doesn't get home is just incredible. Like, right. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that.
I have, and it was in the Brian Van Gorder era. Okay. And that's the one thing that is scary about it, because they did blitz a lot and people could sense where the pressure was coming and then throw to the area that was vacated. And I'm not saying Chris Ash equals Brian Van Gorder, but that's a scary proposition when you are blitzing and you're not getting home.
Yeah. It's frustrating because it's like, all right, we want to see the defense ran like Al Golden's defense. What did we see with Al Golden? A lot of 5-6 man pressures and man defense. And when Notre Dame has done that this year, it's just not worked. They're not getting to the quarterback. They did do a better job against Purdue. You had a couple sacks. Boubacar Traore had a really good PFF grade. Like the D line was definitely better against Purdue than it was against Miami and A&M. But you combine that with the back end being down Schuler for a half and being down Leonard Moore and being down Devontae Smith, and it's just like a recipe for Purdue to be able to throw the ball around. It's like, you got these freshmen back here, a ton of inexperience, and you're not getting to the quarterback. Like, I don't know what you can do to, I don't know what to call up at that point if you're Chris Ash. Like, good luck. That's I think why they panicked. It's like nothing's working. Kyle, do you have any thoughts here?
A couple. I'm just wondering, like, what is the solution? Like, what can be done to fix this? What are we, 3 games into this season now? And I think part of this goes back to what Marcus Freeman talked about last week of, taking ownership as a head coach, and that he's going to invest his time in areas that need it most. And I think he said last week, he didn't say it directly, but he basically said that the defense needs my time, then that's where I'm going to devote it. So maybe Eric and Jack have more insight, but I'm just wondering, like, what can be fixed? Does it come down to a matter of simplifying things? Is it leaning into more of the identity that they had under Al Golden's defense? Like, the thing to me is, it's not like they lost a lot of its key players. Yeah, Jack Kaiser, the heart and soul of the Notre Dame team, he's gone. Riley Mills and Howard Cross, they both had a really valuable role at Notre Dame the last 2 years. Last year, they were banged up for a lot of the year. And Gabriel Rubio, he played a lot of snaps last year. Donovan Heinrich did as well. They have a captain, Drake Bowen. The secondary was – I don't know anyone that said that this Notre Dame secondary wasn't going to be any good. I feel like most people projected this secondary to be one of the best in college football. So, yeah, that's my whole thing is I'm just wondering what they can realistically do to make some fixes and find some improvements.
Do you want to go first, Jack, or do you want me to?
I can go first. I don't know.
You go first.
So first of all, per the chat, it was Zora Stevenson on NBC who reported the throwing iPads thing. I haven't gotten a chance to watch the broadcast copy yet, so obviously I'll listen for that. But regarding Kyle's question, like, I think that's what's most frustrating to Marcus Freeman is that there's no obvious answer. Like, I think Freeman he does like to say this kind of thing when things aren't going well, but like he pulled out if there was an obvious solution, we would do it. Like it's so hard to fix when it's just at all levels. And I do agree with Sean Ryan's comment that Watts covered up a lot of mistakes. So he was a huge loss, but it's all levels of the defense. The linebackers to a much lesser extent than the defensive line and the secondary, but it's one thing if they're covering really well and the pass rush isn't getting home, then you can change that up. It's one thing if the pass rush is getting home and they're just allowing open receivers, then you can change stuff up there. When it's both, there's just not a whole lot you can do, because what you can do if the pass rush isn't getting home, you can start blitzing more. If the coverage isn't holding up, then you drop more. But like when it's both, there's not an easy solution.
When you look at the teams that made the college football playoff last year, there was only one of them that was ranked below 37th in sacks, and that was Tennessee, who was 50th, which is still not horrible. I mean, Notre Dame's sitting at 119 today in sacks per game. And so Tennessee was 50th, and then they got blown out by Ohio State in the first playoff game. So you need to be at least good at that. You can't be awful at that. I think that's where it starts. So how do you improve that? I think they need to be more creative with their pressures in terms of twists and stunts. in terms of how the blitzes come and where they come from and disguising them. I don't think they've been coached well enough to disguise it. And the thing about it was a lot of these same players were very good at it last year, and they're not really good at it this year. And we can talk about Riley Mills and Howard Cross being gone, and I realize they're interior guys, but you did get an influx of Jordan Botelho and Boubacar Traore and a better version of Bryce Young. And so I think pinning this all on Riley Mills and Howard Cross not figuring out a way to get a 7th year is not a good defense. And I think it starts with the pass rush. I think once you start getting that, then I think the back end of the defense starts to improve.
You mentioned creative pressures and whatnot. This is a tweet from Mike Golick Jr. Says this looked like the 2024 Notre Dame defense for a split second. I mean, it looked like the Notre Dame defense of last year, this entire play. I mean, so you got the one or two linemen with their hand in the dirt, a nose guard, and then as that Bryce Young on the far end. Then look at this movement with 4 and 3, Osbury and Snead there. It was like moving in perfect unity. I mean, this was very nice. This was Bryce Young's sack there. That to me did look like exactly what Eric wants. Like, and then look at the coverage here. I mean, this is what you want Notre Dame's defense to be. That play was Chris Ash saying, "Man, I'm not coming here to change a whole lot." We heard that in the offseason. This was that. It was a thing of beauty. So to kind of change the discussion on the defense, maybe let's go glass half full. Let's go fixes. Schuler comes in. I mean, what 4 plays, 18 yards, 3 and out, 5 plays, 6 yards, punt, 3 plays, -1 yard, punt, and then the Dallas Golden pick, in garbage time. And then, of course, Purdue gets the touchdown just to make it 30 points, and that's what we hang our hat on. But defense was a lot better in the second half. If you look at the Purdue or the Texas A&M drive chart, guys, it was better in the second half against A&M as well. What do you guys think? Like, what did you guys see in the second half of this game? To be like, all right, the Notre Dame defense, like, okay, there's 5 straight drives with Purdue going nowhere.
Yeah, they did get better pressure in the second half, Mike. 98 yards versus 286 in the first half for Purdue. So there were improvements. I realized some of that garbage time for both teams got thrown in there. Here, I guess I'm not answering the question directly. I'm going to give you a word salad because one of the things that I was encouraged by was the fact that Dallas Golden and Mark Zachary had to play so many downs last night. And Tay Johnson. I mean, Tay and Zachary played 70 out of the 71 snaps. Dallas Golden played 65. I think that's going to help Notre Dame down the road with being able to rotate guys. And if you have injuries that those guys have played, I like that. The one thing I want to throw to the panel, if I'm allowed to do that, is Christian Gray flipping over and playing the boundary. When Leonard Moore comes back, you wonder if they're a better team with Leonard Moore to the field and Christian Gray into the boundary, or at least look at that in practice a little bit.
I think there's something to that. I think there's also something to the idea of like they can realistically both play both. Maybe just put Leonard Moore on the best receiver all game.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's something you kind of have to do when your best defensive player is a corner. It's one thing when it's last year and Leonard Moore's a true freshman and Christian Gray is playing a lot better than he is now, and you can make things less complicated for them, leave them on both sides of the field. Your best players are safety anyway, and you can have him erase any mistakes. But when your best player is a corner, I feel like you're not utilizing him enough if you're going to leave him on one side of the field the entire game. We saw that against Texas A&M. Because, Leonard Moore's playing great, but all A&M has to do is throw to the side of the field Leonard Moore's not on, and if Margaret Craver's on that side, Notre Dame's in a lot of trouble. So I think there's really something to that idea.
Kyle, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, Eric and Jack, you might have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think
we will.
You did with the Cross and Mills comment. I think you might have misunderstood me, but
Oh, that wasn't a shot at you. I was just talking in general.
So Leonard Moore, I think I might get my games mixed up here. Did he make his first career start against
Louisville as
Yes.
a field corner on Gray's side because Gray was hurt. Then it was the Stanford game where Ben Morrison got hurt, and then Leonard became the boundary corner for the rest of the season. And he had never played field corner in practice up to that Louisville week.
Yeah, we should note, and I'll give it back to you real quick, Kyle, but like we should note that Leonard Moore said after that game, like, oh, I had no idea what I was doing on the field. He was just kind of thrown in there and be like, go play corner. But it's been a whole year since then. Leonard Moore's gotten a lot of practice time. So I think
field corner too. I mean, they did both.
Yeah. So I think you can conceivably do that if it both takes advantage of having Leonard Moore and helps Christian Gray. I think it's very much worth an idea.
I like that, Mike. Let me ask a question. Now I'll buy you the pinstripe hat that you wanted, that you were talking about. I'll have it for you when you come for the Boise game.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, Jack, that's where I was going with my comment is, and you might have to elaborate for me again, but if I remember correctly, I think Moore might have said that playing field is much more challenging than boundary. Did he say that at some point? Maybe I'm making something up.
Maybe
you guys on
based on experience, maybe, but I don't know that he necessarily feels like he couldn't play out into the field.
I don't recall, like, before I started covering Notre Dame 6 years ago, the whole thing about boundary and field corners. Like, I just didn't. I don't care. Like, I don't know, especially if you're running so much man. Like, I get it. If it's a zone defense and, you know, being to the far side of the field or short side of the field might have more of an impact, just more ground to cover. But otherwise, like, just if you're a man defense, which Notre Dame mostly is, just line up your best guy against the best guy.
Some people do play left and right. Some people do that.
Or trail, like, follow them. Because if like I think it was Jack said, it's just like, all right, I mean, you just don't throw towards Leonard Moore. So if I'm the offense and I'm on one of the hashes or I'm leaning towards that hash, I know exactly where Leonard Moore is going to be. Just we don't need to worry about that side of the field. It's like, all right, then we're going to put our better receiver to the field. Like, just because he's more of a boundary body, put him to the field.
That's what Ohio State did with Jeremiah Smith.
I don't like it.
There were very few reps of Leonard Moore versus Jeremiah Smith.
That DC last year, what the hell was he doing? He must not have been any good.
I don't understand this bit, Mike. I don't get this bit.
What bit?
The Al Golden bit. He did on the board earlier today too. I don't get it.
I'm just trolling. You don't understand a good troll. No, I'm kidding. Al Golden's great, but yeah, I don't love I've never really understood the need for boundary or field, but that's just me.
In certain teams where you don't have the talent that Notre Dame has at corner, I could see it because you may not have somebody fast enough to play in the field to cover that much ground, and it might be a more big physical guy. Let's look at Cam Hart. Now, Cam Hart was fast enough to play in the field, but let's say he was a little bit slower. Then you'd like to keep him into the boundary where he doesn't have as much field to cover and he has those big receivers.
Sure.
That's a better matchup for him. But Notre Dame has the talent for those guys to play their side, and they have the length to do it. I mean, they're not recruiting guys that are Sean Crawford's side, and Sean Crawford was great, but he was all of about 5'9" with shorter arms. These guys, if they're 5'11" like Zachary, they've got arms that can swat away passes. I mean, he's got length to him. He doesn't look 5'11" when you see him.
Yeah. Mike, now's the perfect time for you to cue up my wingspan photo that I took of Mark Zachary his junior year of high school. I'm only half kidding, but I mean, yeah, the dude's arms go kind of hang down to his knees. He's he's got the length. I'm wondering a couple other things on defense, if I can ask.
Okay.
Ask a couple questions.
I'll allow it. You'll owe me a hat, but it's okay.
That's right. You'll have to buy the hat now, Kyle.
First thing, Jared Dawson, 0 snaps. I think we're going to ask about that on Monday. It might be
Really?
injury related.
Yeah.
I have to think he was hurt because like there's being benched and then there's being so benched that you don't even play in garbage time. Like
Right.
that would be
Like Carson Hobbs.
well, Hobbs I feel like is different because they played
Yeah,
Dallas.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. It is different.
But because they need to play Dallas Golden.
What's that bit? What is the bit here, Jack? Why are you saying Al Gold needs to play?
Hey, I'll tell you what, in hindsight,
Elijah Hughes did play well, though.
I thought he had a good game. I'll need to watch the tape. I thought he had a good game.
Played a lot.
But
Go ahead, Jack.
the point is like you put in your subs at defensive tackle. You put in Sean Sevillano and Armel Mukum. You didn't put in you didn't take Dallas Golden out. That's why Hobbs didn't play, and that was just a straight up benching. Whereas I feel like Dawson has to be hurt.
And we should point out it never showed up in the player availability report, which it should have. He was in the 2 deep, so that is a good question for Monday.
Correct.
I know you'll ask it, Eric.
Well, I mean, somebody will. If it gets around to me and it hasn't been asked, then I will ask that because I do think it's an interesting question. But there are some big questions that need to be asked, and hopefully Jack asks all the really important ones, and I can ask the Dawson one.
Speaking of asking questions, let me ask you guys this. I mean, if you're scrolling Twitter or the message board, which I hope all 3 of you guys were during the game, I certainly was. There's a lot of it's just get rid of Ash. Just do it. Just make the change. Just get rid of Chris.
That's why I avoid the board. It's so negative. I understand fans are frustrated, and I see their argument, but golly.
Does anyone on this sitting at this round table right now think that that's the right call? Like, is it time to make that decision yet? Or if it continues down this road, like when do you think that should be? Maybe anyone have any thoughts on this? Jack, I'll start with you. Okay, Eric.
Go ahead first.
No. I'd like to let Eric start.
Okay, I think you need to write out the year. There's no way you make that change in season in year 1. You need to write out the year because I still think he can be a great resource or even a good resource, even if he's not maybe calling all the shots or whatever. I still feel like you want that person on your staff for the year. Then at the end of the year, I think it's fair to evaluate and say, did I make a mistake? Can this get better? Was Chris Ash what I thought he was? I thought Brian Kelly with Van Gorder made that mistake twice. I think you could have maybe made a case for him to come back in 2015 after the disaster of 2014 when teams said, wait a second, this guy doesn't know how to defend tempo or spread offenses. And even teams that weren't tempo or spread did that against Notre Dame and beat them. But you get into 2015 and they wasted a playoff team on Brian Van Gorder's defense. And then you get into 2016. I remember sitting in Brian Kelly's office that offseason, and fortunately he didn't throw me out, but I basically said, okay, Brian, why is he still here? You know, you're the one that supported, because I talked to some of the other assistant coaches and they're like, we don't know. This is, I mean, their diplomatic response was, this is a big year for him. Well, so was 2015. But I do think, getting back to Chris Ash, using that example, I think you need to wait to the end of the year. You need to see how this plays out. But again, Marcus Freeman's role needs to change with relation to the defense, no matter what happens to Chris Ash at the end of the year. And then you just see where it goes.
Jack?
I would agree with pretty much all of that. I think if it doesn't get better, I don't think he can get a second year, but that's obviously a few months away. So I agree that there's not much of a point in making a change this season, particularly when you still just have 2 losses. I think it becomes more of a debate if and when you lose that 3rd game, because then you're like, oh, maybe we can give Mickens a trial run, but I don't know how much of a real evaluation you would get there. But I would agree with Eric that you probably can't do anything until after the season. And I also agree that Marcus Freeman needs to take a more commanding role with the defense, and that's not saying like Ash should just be the defense coordinator in name. Like like Eric said, he can still give a lot of input, but I don't know if it's a change in play caller. I don't know if it's a change in like who's in charge of the final game plan, but something has to, like, I don't think you can do nothing right now and still tell yourself that you're really trying to make the most of the season.
Eric and then Kyle.
Okay. Just a couple of thoughts when Jack was talking. I don't know, Jack, you weren't here for Jared Parker, right?
I was, yeah.
Oh, you were. Okay. Don't you think, you look at the overall numbers for Jared Parker and they were pretty good. You look at the peaks and valleys, and that's where Jared Parker really fell down. And I do think had he decided to stay around, Marcus owed it to himself to kind of evaluate whether that was working.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think 1 year is too short of a time. I think you really need to look at, if your mantra is question everything, you got to question it at the end of 1 year.
Yeah, correct. Did I don't know if anything I said gave the impression that I thought 1 year is too soon to take.
No. I just was wondering about. I was trying to reinforce that.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
What you said, because I think the Jared Parker situation was similar, even though Notre Dame had some of the best offensive numbers they've had in their history. But in the big games, there was these valleys where they just fell down and they had no counterpunch in those games, like Clemson, for example.
And even still, like going back to one of the first things I said this afternoon is like the way Marcus is talking about the defense right now, it's very different than he was talking about the offense, even with Jared Parker. Like there's a lot more frustration. I kind of agree with Mark with Glass's comment. Like he seems as upset as anyone about this, but both surprised and upset, I would say.
Kyle?
Yeah, one comment on Jared Parker. I will say, whoever was in, whoever had what's the word I'm looking for? Not assignment. Whoever assembled that wide receiver core that year, and I mean, this was just as a lead up of poor recruiting at that position, did Jared Parker and Sam Hartman a pretty big disservice because they had no one to throw to. I mean, they had the freshman year. Go ahead, Jack.
I will always maintain that was the number one problem with the 2023 offense, not Parker or Hartman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they had a walk-on, lacrosse player, Jordan Faison, who's obviously turned out to be pretty darn good, and who I actually advocated for that camp to get involved in the offense.
You were on him early. It was very impressive.
Yeah, becoming a factor. So just going back to the defense and kind of Marcus Freeman's role here, I feel like he's got to really dedicate, if not most, all of his time to the defense. They have an offensive coordinator they clearly trust in Mike Denbrock. They have a really strong offensive staff. I feel like they got the offense. It's not totally figured out. There's still things they got to do week to week, but I think the offense is handled. I think Marty Biaggi has that special teams unit pretty well handled too. And I know that's something we've learned about Freeman is that he really invests a lot of time in his special teams. We see him coaching up in practice occasionally. If I'm Marcus Freeman, I'm spending all my time in the defensive meeting rooms. I'm doing whatever I can to figure this out and fix it now, because I mean it's been we've written about it and talked about it at lengths now. Notre Dame's backs are against the wall. They can't lose another game. It's win out from here. So I almost wonder how much Marcus Freeman can get involved, being that he is the head coach and he does have other responsibilities. But I think he does need to devote a lot of time and energy on that side of the ball.
Well, I mean, Mike Elko's calling the defense for Texas A&M, and I think Venables is doing it for Oklahoma. I mean, head coaches have done that before. He wouldn't be the first one in college football history to do it.
Notre Dame was a 25.5-point favorite. I think it actually ended up getting to 24.5 by the kickoff. And Notre Dame did cover that spread, by the way, and this is spread by BetMGM, and we're using their lines to make our picks this season. And we'll have special offers for you guys to discuss throughout the season. When you join BetMGM right now, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. You download the app, sign up using bonus code ON3, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code ON3 when you sign up. So make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. And don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3. Get that BetMGM app and get your up to $1,500 first bet offer today. Thank you, BetMGM, for sponsoring this show. I had a couple things regarding the should you fire Ash right now. The YouTube chat, 52 votes. It is. Well, now it's 57 votes, 51% saying no. So it was 52% yes, like a second ago. And
Mrs. Ash just weighed in.
I'm sorry?
Mrs. Ash just weighed in.
Eric said it's not the right call now. It's an off-season decision. M. Moore says, how would it look to other people if we fire him after 3 weeks? D-Rock Irish says, quietly move Ash to the press box and Freeman's and Mickens take most of it over. Look, you can't quietly do shit in college football in 2025. Are you joking? You don't think that would get out? I think Thursday that Moore and Smith were going to be out. And I knew who was going to be replacing them and at what positions. I called Eric and I was like, how should I handle this? And then, I made a post on the message board. And
I said, buy me a hat and I'll tell you.
All right. So the hat counter now of who owes what is just getting beyond me. It's a long way to say you can't keep anything really quiet. It's very tough to do, especially something like that.
I will say,
go ahead, Jack.
Real quick, like the move Ash to the press box idea, like obviously you can't do it quietly, but I don't know if that's the answer, even an answer, but it is a thing that you can change that Freeman can evaluate.
Yeah, just doing it quietly, I don't think you can do it quietly. But if you want to do that change,
it's not a terrible idea. From where I sit.
Yeah.
I will say, I've heard one reason that the coaches a lot of them are choosing to be on the field nowadays is because they have the iPads and they can see that sort of view down on the field. So, I mean, sure. Chris Ash is still getting that on the sideline. So I don't know how much. Value that's going to be. It seems to me
it's just getting him out of the way.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, Jack mentioned earlier, it seems like Ash needs to be a little bit more involved with the in-game adjustments and not looking at the iPad in between series. So feels like we're nitpicking there, but I don't know. I guess that's what happens when things look this bad.
Mark with glasses says Gino's up in the booth by himself. Yeah, him and several other analysts. Like he's definitely not up there by himself. Of the full-time, 10 assistant coaches, yes, but no, there's many others up there with him. Kind of closing the show. Want to go around the room. How you guys feeling about Arkansas game? Like, do any of you actually have the Irish on upset alert in terms of you're gonna pick Arkansas? Does anyone know what the Arkansas Notre Dame line is yet? Do we have that?
I saw one that was 6.5, but it wasn't our official On3 sponsored, so I didn't tweet it or anything. But the one that I've seen is 6.5. Notre Dame being favored.
Okay, how you guys feeling? We'll start with you, Eric.
I mean, I think if Notre Dame got into a turnover deficit in this game, it would be a real problem. And I'm not sure how they're going to handle Talon Green. But the fact that Arkansas is worse at its run defense than its pass defense, I think is a really good sign for Notre Dame because they can kind of control tempo, hold on to the ball when they need to, and maybe methodically have longer drives and so forth. I think that's big. So I think Notre Dame, if they play a clean game, will win this. But get into a turnover deficit, and they're going to be in trouble.
Kyle, because then
I got to hop off here to do a recruit interview here pretty soon. But one thing I think that's working in Notre Dame's favor is, unlike the A&M game, this is a 11 a.m. local start. So fans don't have a ton of time to get energized pre-game. So maybe home field advantage isn't as beneficial for Arkansas. But I think, we've already learned a lot about this team already, but we're going to learn a sure heck of a lot more this week about if this defense is up for the challenge.
I thought we were going to have to hit the censor button there when you said sure have to.
But we're going to learn a lot this week to see, if they're up to the task of getting this ship right around, because it kind of feels like a little bit now or never. You can't lose this game. So,
first of all, the 11 a.m. start is very much a plus for us as well, because
thank God.
Everybody was worried about that.
Yeah, don't get a whole lot of those in Notre Dame land, since they don't have any. They can choose not to have 11 a.m. noon starts for their home games, but whenever we get one on the road, it's always very much welcome. So thank you, ESPN/ABC. But on a serious note, I'm really fascinated to see how Arkansas comes out here, because they just lost 2 games in very similar fashion. Against Ole Miss, they were driving down 6 with 2.5 or something minutes left. They fumble, Ole Miss wins. Against Memphis, and they also gave up 41 points to Ole Miss's backup quarterback. And against Memphis, they gave up 35 or however many points it was, maybe 33 or
32.
something. 32. Was it 30-32 the final?
32-31, I believe.
32-31. So they give up 32 points. Memphis is also playing a backup quarterback. They have the game in their hands, inside the 10, and their running back, for whatever reason, tries to reach out the ball holding it like a loaf of bread. As he's going to the ground, they punch it out. They fumble the game away. That was one of the most ridiculous ways I've seen a team lose a game in college football as of late. And their head coach, Sam Pittman, now 7-19 in one-score games. He's kind of he's past the hot seat. He's been on the hot seat for a couple of years at this point in Arkansas, and I think he's getting close to dead man walking territory. So I'm fascinated to see how his players come out this week when they've just lost 2 games in horrible fashion. But if they come out inspired, then yeah, it's a concern, because Taylon Green and Bobby Petrino, who's one of the most ridiculous individuals in recent memory in college football, but the man can coordinate offense. That's the reason he just keeps getting jobs. So he's got that group rolling. They have some speed on the outside. The line is blocking very well. I think we should know that with Arkansas. They got the Georgia Tech transfer in Corey Robinson, a high school teammate of Anthony Knapp's, who I think had one of the top pass blocking grades on PFF in the country last year. That's carried over this year. So there's a lot going on here. But the bottom line is, if Arkansas plays inspired football, the way Notre Dame's defense is played, they're going to have to score every time they get the ball to keep up with them. The good news, like you mentioned at the top of the show, Eric, is that this team looks capable of doing that against an Arkansas defense that's really struggled.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame will get Leonard Moore back. Devontae Smith, I'm a little nervous about. I don't know if he's going to be back for Arkansas, but still getting Leonard back would be great. I will continue to be optimistic until I really can't anymore. If they like I said earlier in the show, if they lose the Arkansas, or even if they win 55-45 or something crazy, I think what the defense is at that point is stamped. I think we're going to learn everything we need to about this Notre Dame football 2025 team based on this game. That's how I feel. I've got Notre Dame winning 33-23 or something like that. 36-20. I don't know. I got Notre Dame by 10, and Notre Dame will score 30 plus. Book it.
I think I have Notre Dame by 4 with the score in the 30s.
Yeah.
I think I have it 6 or 7, and it's in the 40s and 30s.
Nice. Okay. All right. Well, that is going to do it for this show, folks. If you're just tuning in, rewind, watching the beginning, some great stuff from the guys, and hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the Blue and Gold YouTube channel for more content. And of course, go to blueandgold.com for so much more coverage of your Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Really appreciate you all for tuning in. And as always, we will catch you next time.